everyone, and welcome to week 12 of The Artist's Way in my bullet journal. Week 12 is the last week. You made it, I made it, we all made it through. It's been a really amazing 12 weeks. It felt long, but it also felt short. Maybe because I'm done now, I can look back and think that it went by quickly. Last week I talked a little bit about week 11 seeming like a great capstone to the program. Week 12 was interesting. I found myself very excited that I was at the end, and I lost a little bit of motivation because of that, because I was so close to the end. I knew I was going to finish the program, but I didn't really have it in me to have a whole bunch of focus on the Artist's Way program. And I found that the exercises in week 12 were very forgiving to that. There were a few things where you're looking forward and planning for the next 3 months now that you're done the program. And I love to plan, so I found that really exciting and full of possibilities. Here we are on week 12 with all of the clouds colored in. Week 12 was all about recovering a sense of faith, and as you can see here, I loved the exercises this week. I just found them really light and easy, so I really enjoyed this week. I thought last week would be a great way to end off the program, but now that I've completed week 12, I feel very good about the way this course began and ended. Here is my mood tracker all filled out. My last week of the Artist's Way was pretty neutral, actually. Throughout the days there were ups and downs, but overall when I looked back on the previous day, I was for the most part very neutral on average. My morning pages tracker is all filled out. I completed morning pages every single day of this program. For my artist date in week 12, I did that on the Monday because I was just so excited to be finished with the program that I wanted to do my artist date right at the beginning of the week. Here is my cover page as well as my quote page for week 12. The quote again was taken from the margins of the chapter on week 12 in the Artist's Way book. I went with a fireworks theme and I just love the way this turned out. I'm happy with everything about this. These aren't colors I would typically choose, and so I was very surprised by how much I liked it. Here are the key concepts for the week. We talked about trusting, which is essentially leaving things to the universe. We don't know what our actions will lead to, but we have a sure-footedness in our actions because we trust that the universe will return something that is in line with what we put out into the world. Mystery is all about that darkness and that uncertainty in terms of the creative process. Imagination at Play talks about how we need to allow ourselves time to play. Let yourself do something that maybe doesn't have anything to do with your craft or however it is that you earn your living. The last line kind of sums up this whole concept, which is we must work at learning to play. Escape velocity was an interesting concept. It talks about that moment that we're about to succeed. Something always happens that sabotages us. Maybe it's us sabotaging ourselves. Maybe we seek out someone in our life who ends up sabotaging us and does this repeatedly over our lives. Somehow on the cusp of this success, this escape velocity, we make a creative U-turn. I feel like for myself, I tend to sabotage myself. I second guess myself a lot, and I'm really trying to let that practice go and try to achieve that escape velocity where I can go with an idea and just run with it without doubting myself or second guessing myself. Here are the tasks for the week. As you can see, I did all of the tasks, and I will run through these tasks as well as the way I laid them out in the bullet journal. So let's just go ahead and do the bullet journal part first. We were asked to go back and look at the core negative beliefs and affirmations from the week 1 chapter in the Artist's Way. And then we were asked to write some affirmations for our continued creativity. And I think I may have written these ones before, but I just wrote out 4 affirmations. I think these capture everything I want to achieve in terms of personal development over the next little while. So I've got, I believe in myself, I trust my inner artist, I believe in my ability to create meaningful work, and I believe in a generous and abundant universe. We were asked this week to start a universe jar. I call it the universe jar, but the Artist's Way calls it the God jar. But I just love this concept of an abundant and generous universe. And in this universe jar, you're supposed to write down your fears, your worries, your resentments, your hopes, and your dreams. I'll insert a photo of my universe jar. I've tried to draw it here. And in this universe jar, I've put in some of my fears, my worries, and my resentments as I move on from this course. A lot of it centers around not knowing what to do next, but I'm trying to let that go. By putting these things in the universe jar, you're telling yourself the universe has got this. You don't need to worry about it anymore. I haven't done my hopes and dreams yet. We actually weren't specifically asked to put those in the universe jar yet. So I haven't done those yet. As I mentioned, I wasn't all that focused on the artist way this week, just being so close to being done. But I plan to put those in there as well. And I'm thinking of doing a fire ceremony or something like that at the end of every year where I burn everything in the universe jar and start anew. I had a mini fire ceremony this week on my balcony and it turned out really well. So I think I may want to do that practice going forward. These were some questions that we were asked to ask ourselves. So sort of like sentence stems, but it wasn't laid out in that way. These are things like, what would you most like to create? What oddball paths are you willing to try in pursuit of your dreams? And what appearances are you willing to shed also in pursuit of your dreams? So I went ahead and did some writing around that. And then I did the week 12 check-in. So there wasn't much by way of stuff for the bullet journal, but I'm really happy with the way all of the pages turned out. I did a reflection on my morning pages, on my artist day, which was the fire ceremony this week, and as well, I ended up shredding a lot of stuff this week. I shredded all of the morning pages that I wrote during the program. I think I have to get better at jotting down moments of synchronicity when they happen, because I think they do happen, but I just forget about them by the end of the week. And then I talked about issues significant to recovery, and there were a few things this week. I realized that I don't love to talk about my creative dreams. I find it really difficult to share those things. I also realized this week that caffeine in the form of coffee doesn't make me feel great, so I'm gonna try to watch that going forward, limiting how much I have. And then I also talked about a moment of uncertainty this week where I just felt so disconcerted that I didn't have a project lined up. I had no idea what I was going to work on next, and I felt so much anxiety around that. I was almost frozen with anxiety because I didn't know what I was going to do next. Thankfully, that moment came and passed very quickly. I still have some baseline anxiety around that, but I find that I'm much more at peace with not knowing what comes next versus 12 weeks ago before I started this journey. Before I show you the next page, I wanted to go back to the task list because there are a few tasks that I completed that weren't really laid out on these pages. These two tasks here are mend any mending and repot any pinched and languished plants. Julia Cameron says that when she teaches this course, or when she used to teach this course, she would ask students to do that whenever they felt particularly blocked. So mend any mending has to do with essentially sewing things that you've set aside that need to be fixed. So maybe holes in your clothing, something along those lines. She finds that working with your hands, doing these things that require attention but at the same time are slightly meditative are really good for getting past creative blocks. I thought that was a really neat concept, and they're things that I naturally gravitate towards as well. I do a lot of stuff with my plants, so this was a given, but mend any mending I actually wasn't going to do because I don't have anything right now that requires mending. But I remembered I had this rectangle that I was knitting. Originally this was supposed to be a blanket for Lulu, but Lulu has a blanket already because it's taken me probably 8 to 10 years to come back to this knitting. All of a sudden, when I saw this and started thinking about the concept of mending any mending that you have, I felt the urge to knit again. So I've been slowly knitting a little bit every day. The last item that I'll touch on is this one here. Reread this book and share it with a friend. I am not planning to reread this book, but I have shared it with friends. I haven't given the physical book, but I've talked about it a lot with friends in my daily life, as well as with you guys. So I feel like I have shared this book quite a lot over the past 12 weeks, and I think I will continue to do so because it was just so impactful. Now let's jump to the last page, which is the creativity contract. This is a contract that you make with yourself, committing to practices for the next 90 days. And I alluded to this in the intro already, but I'm gonna go ahead and continue with morning pages, continue with artist dates. I'm gonna do a weekly check-in with myself each week. It says to do that with a friend, but I felt like it would be more effective if I just did that with myself because I feel very accountable to myself. And then I laid out a plan to essentially write every day. So I'm gonna do morning coffee sessions. I'm gonna do a daily writing practice with my morning pages. I'm also planning to write and publish at least one blog post every month for the next 3 months. And I also want to write and publish one meditation each month for the next 3 months as well, because originally I was planning to release 6 meditations. I've only done 3. I ended on page 203, but I do plan to use the rest of the journal for something. I've got just under 40 pages remaining. It's hard to believe that 12 weeks ago, this Leuchtturm 1917 A5 dotted notebook was entirely blank, and now the journal is almost completely full. It feels really good to have captured my journey in this bullet journal. That is going to be it for the Artist's Way program. Thank you so much for watching this video as well as the entire series. If you watched all of the other videos, I was trying to look back at my first few videos in this series and they were really long and I found them very tedious. So if you made it through those and continued watching, then kudos to you. Thank you so much for your patience and your stamina. I really love this program. I really love this program. I mean, I'm glad I'm done because I do love to have an end point for things. I don't like things to continue on forever. So I love that this was a very truncated 12-week program, but it was hard work. I mean, there was a lot of self-reflection. The morning pages practice is very difficult to find the time for, as well as the artist dates. I found the morning pages practice a little bit easier because I had already developed the routine because I've been doing morning pages since December 24th. So I had done a good 5 to 6 months of morning pages coming into the actual Artist's Way program. So I found that I had already established a daily practice for that, so that wasn't as tough, but it still does take up a chunk of your day. So that's always difficult to commit to something like that. The artist date practice I found was a little bit more difficult to set aside the time for. It's a 2-hour block, so it's a bigger chunk of time, and it's hard if you have people living in the same home as you or you have other commitments and things like that. It's really hard to take that time to yourself, but I found it really rewarding to take that time and just do whatever my inner artist called for. It was a little bit difficult at times to think of ideas for my artist date. I had a list of things that I didn't do because I just didn't feel a pull to them on the day that I was about to embark on an artist date, so I didn't do them. I would try to go with my gut, what I truly wanted to do, and a lot of the time that had to do with my plants. So I spent a lot of my artist dates taking care of my plants or researching plants, especially towards the second half of the Artist's Way program after I had discovered this interest in plants. Overall, I think I changed a lot during the 12-week course. I became more centered within myself. I'm more confident in my decisions. I don't second guess myself as much. And I feel like I'm better at letting things go, which is something that I've really struggled with in the past. I'm more willing to leave things in the hands of the universe, which I find really interesting. And I'm also okay about not having my next project set in stone. I'm eager to continue with the artist dates and the morning pages and just see what comes up, what pulls my creative interest and what I want to work on with enthusiasm, rather than I think I should do this project. I want to really feel that pull towards a project. I think I'm starting to get there. I have little inklings in my mind of what I want to work on next. A lot of it has to do with writing, and of course, I will be keeping up with YouTube and trying to be a bit more consistent on YouTube. Although I have been consistent the past 12 weeks because I've had this project on the go. But now that I don't have any projects on the go, I'm curious as to what YouTube video ideas will grab me and that I'll actually go ahead and record. So I mean, we'll see what happens over the next little while, but I wanted to thank you again for watching this series. I'm gonna be back with one more Artist Way in my bullet journal video, and that will be the final flip through. So I'm hoping to flip through the entire bullet journal rather quickly and not have too much commentary behind it. So look for that coming very, very soon. Thank you all again for keeping me company on this journey. I really appreciate you, and I hope I've been able to keep you company on some sort of journey as well. I'll be back very soon with another video. Until then, please take care and bye for now.